Welcome to Chapter 2, where we will provide an overview of the Dynasound Pro 70-volt constant voltage products. A typical 70-volt sound masking system consists of three major parts: loudspeakers, cabling, and head-end components. First, loudspeakers are placed in the plenum airspace above the finished ceiling. The spacing of these loudspeakers is predicated on the materials present, ceiling height, and plenum depth. Different ceiling tile types, for example, may consist of higher or lower ceiling attenuation class ratings, or CAC. That is to say, the ceiling tile will block more sound with a higher CAC rating from reaching the listener. With higher rated CAC ceiling tile, such as mineral board tile, the spacing between loudspeakers is greater due to increased reflection of sound in the plenum. With lower rated CAC ceiling tile, such as fiberglass, the loudspeaker spacing will be closer due to less sound reflection in the air plenum. It is important to understand what ceiling material in which the system was designed and compare those to on-site conditions. Loudspeakers are typically hung using ceiling grid hanger wire and initially set to a 1-watt setting for most ceiling materials. The tap setting determines the number of loudspeakers a specified amplifier can drive based on the line's load. At the time of tuning, loudspeakers may be adjusted using the transformer tap setting upward or downward in 3 decibel increments. The head-end equipment is most commonly placed in an equipment rack in a centralized location and includes the necessary sound masking generators, amplifiers, and attenuation panels for the system when applicable. The cabling used for loudspeaker connection is 2-conductor loudspeaker cable, rated for air handling plenum conditions in cases where code dictates. This cabling connects the head-end equipment to the loudspeakers in a parallel scheme or daisy chain fashion. Constant voltage 70-volt sound masking is typically a lower cost solution at the expense of adjustability. It features centralized electronics and is easy to install in new construction projects when done prior to ceiling installation. It is also simple to expand the system with additional loudspeakers connected to the cable run when amplifier power permits, or alternatively, create additional zones by adding additional sound masking generators and power amplifiers. The DS1042 and DS1092 are self-contained sound masking generator amplifier combinations for basic 70-volt systems. Both feature a single internal sound masking generator with additional music and microphone paging inputs on the DS1092 model. Sound masking spectrum is adjusted using a front panel low-pass filter to shape the sound masking spectrum to the environment. The 1042 features a 25-watt internal amplifier capable of approximately 20 to 25 loudspeakers depending on the transformer tap settings. The 1092 offers a slightly higher output of 40 watts, making it suitable for around 35 to 40 loudspeakers in a single zone. Sound masking generators for larger systems often consist of more elaborate feature sets, including multiple non-coherent sound masking generators and more precise level and tonal control. The DS3008-3002 products are standalone sound masking generators, which may be used with separate power amplifiers. The primary difference between the two units is the number of inputs and outputs available on each. The DS3008 features 8 analog inputs for paging and music sources, 4 internal sound masking generators with full 1/3 octave equalization, and 8 analog outputs. The DS3002 provides the exact same feature set in a 2-input by 2-output configuration. Both of these single rack mount units are IP-enabled devices, which are programmed using Privacy Manager software, a Windows-based client software package which may be downloaded on the Cambridge Sound Management website. It is also important to note here that these same two products are used in conjunction with the Dynasound Pro network solution when external audio sources are needed. The DSL-G22 dual-channel amplifier features 100 watts of power per channel and is used to power 70-volt loudspeakers. Depending on the number of zones required, one or more of these amplifiers may be required in conjunction with the DS3002-3008 sound masking generator. Based on 1-watt loudspeaker taps throughout a zone, each channel of the amplifier can supply a signal for 85 to 90 70-volt loudspeakers, depending on the cable length and size. This small, lightweight rack-mount amplifier features 2 inputs and outputs, as well as rear unit gain level controls for each channel, and a rear power switch, thus making it ideal for most sound masking applications. It is common in many sound masking solutions to provide different overall sound masking zone levels, allowing adjustment in different areas of the facility. The DSR-MP attenuator panel allows for zones to be adjusted by the end user without the need for software. These units ship in configurations of 1 to 8 channels dependent on the specific project needs. Simply order a DSR-MP6 for 6 zone attenuators or a DSR-MP8 for 8 zones. Each comes pre-configured with the number of attenuators needed for your specific project. Additional attenuators may be ordered separately in the case of a system expansion. Each channel features 11 steps of volume adjustment, 10 1.5 dB steps and 1 off position, as well as a 100 watt capacity per attenuator in a 2 rack unit chassis. There are 3 loudspeaker choices in the Dynasound Pro 70-volt family, the most common being the DS1338, a 6-inch plenum-mounted loudspeaker suitable for ceiling plenum and open structure applications. The DS1338 features tap settings ranging from 1/8 watt to 4 watts and 3 dB steps via a rotary selector. The 1338 includes a single-point hanging eyelet and is available as standard white in color. However, this unit may also be ordered in black color should project conditions dictate. The DS1338 is approved for use in Chicago when used with an optional conduit entry plate for jurisdictions requiring cabling be encased in conduit. The DS1390 is a low-profile loudspeaker for use in shallow in-ceiling plenum spaces. At less than 2 inches in total height, this loudspeaker may be used in plenum spaces less than 18 inches in depth and under large obstructions such as HVAC ducts. It too features 6 tap settings ranging from 1/8 watt to 4 watts via a rotary tap selector switch. The DS1390 uses 2 horizontally opposed, rectangular-shaped internal drivers in a vented enclosure, directing sound out the front and rear of the unit. It too is Chicago approved, with use of an optional conduit entry plate to facilitate connection. The DS1390 is available in both black and white colors and may be mounted using an optional ceiling tile bridge for ceiling tile installation. As mentioned earlier in the course, some ceiling substrates prohibit sound masking above the ceiling material due to their acoustic properties. The DS1375 is a 5-inch direct field ceiling loudspeaker used for hard lid ceiling types such as drywall, wood, and many metal ceiling types. Unlike other loudspeakers in the Dynasound Pro lineup, this loudspeaker can be used in both 70-volt applications as well as network applications due to the fact it is either selectable between 70-volt operation or voice coil 8-ohm impedances. We will discuss this later in the section on network sound masking. The DS1375 features 4 selectable tap settings in 1/2, 1, 2, and 4 watts. Comes in white color only and is easily mounted using the integral flip-out suspension toggles. In addition to sound masking, it is common to use a direct firing loudspeaker to provide paging in a facility. The DS1375 can easily accomplish this by providing a page-only sound masking zone throughout an entire or a portion of the facility. Now that we have an understanding of the different 70-volt products, let's look at some examples of their use. First, for simple single-zone sound masking, a cost-effective method is to use a DS1092 or DS1042 all-in-one sound masking generator amplifier. In this use case, the ceiling and plenum depth must be of consistent materials, as only a single low-pass spectrum adjustment is in place. Assuming 1-watt taps, up to 35 DS1338 loudspeakers may be connected to the DS1092, using a single 2-conductor loudspeaker cable. Additionally, a paging or music source may be connected to the 1092 for reproduction. It is important to note that the primary job of an indirect sound masking system is to provide even distribution of sound masking. Therefore, the loudspeakers are specific to this purpose. In many ceiling types with lower ceiling attenuation classes, such as fiberglass tile, paging is clear and intelligible. In open structure projects, low-level background music is fairly detailed. However, in higher CAC materials, paging intelligibility and music clarity can suffer, and it may be a better choice to use a separate zone of direct firing loudspeakers to reproduce the paging and music sources. This can still easily be accomplished, however, using a single solution, instead of requiring two separate audio systems. Larger 70-volt sound masking systems may take a more modular approach, using separate components for sound generation and amplification. In this example, a DS3002 provides two separate sound masking generators, each equalized for architectural conditions and loudspeaker type. These two generators, generator A and B, may be mixed with up to two external audio sources, such as a paging signal from microphone or from a telephone system. User volume control is provided by the DSR-MP attenuator panel, after the signal is passed through the DSLG22 amplifier. Please note that the two channels of the amplifier are connected to multiple attenuators. This allows differing areas to be adjusted independently in level even though the same mixed signal is present within the zone. Speaker zones 1 and 2 receive sound masking generator A, while zones 3 and 4 receive the signal from sound masking generator B as outlined. Each row of loudspeakers are considered different independent zones, however, with level adjustment provided for each. In this example, the architectural conditions and loudspeaker types for zone 1 and 2 must match. The same is true for zones 3 and 4. Remember that with 70-volt systems, only the level of a single loudspeaker can be adjusted by turning the tap up or down. Assuming that each loudspeaker is tapped at 1 watt initially, it is a good sound masking practice to set the maximum number of loudspeakers to around 85% of the total amplifier's capacity. In this case, zones 1 and 2 combined could total 85 loudspeakers using a 100 watt per channel amplifier. You will find that in the real world, most individual loudspeakers are adjusted downward and not upwards from that initial 1 watt setting. This is due to openings in the ceiling, and therefore it is typical to have less amplifier draw. However, this 85% general rule of thumb allows for several loudspeakers to be adjusted upwards as necessary. One way to alleviate the effects of comb filtering interference in a 70-volt system is to alternate two separate generator channels within the same zone. In the example illustrated, we show a two-zone system comprised of two generators being supplied by a DS3002. Both sound masking generators are adjusted to the same identical tonal spectrum and level. Amplifier channel 1 and amplifier channel 2 receive different non-coherent generator signals, along with any common audio paging source. The loudspeakers are then cabled so that adjacent loudspeakers receive an alternate amplifier channel, and thus alleviating the acoustic interference associated with a single-channel system. This is referred to as an A plus B 70-volt system, or simply AB 70-volt, because of the alternating signal generators being used. It is important to note here that both Zone 1 and Zone 2 must receive the same tonal spectrum adjustment in this scenario. Therefore, the loudspeaker types and architectural conditions must remain consistent throughout such a system. There are no additional means of compensating for changes in ceiling materials nor plenum depths, with the two generator channels being identical in such an AB configuration. Our final 70-volt example takes into account the use of differing loudspeaker types or architectural conditions, utilizing additional amplifier channels and sound masking generators. This time, we will utilize a DS3008 and take advantage of 4 of its 8 available analog outputs to serve 4 amplifier channels. Like the previous example, Zone 1 utilizes 2 identical sets of sound masking generators to serve alternating adjacent loudspeakers. Zone 2 is utilizing a different loudspeaker type, such as the DS1390, due to a change in plenum height. Zone 3 utilizes a 4th sound masking generator, as the loudspeaker type in a corridor may need to be direct field due to a hard lid ceiling. In this example, the goal is to adjust the 3 different types of areas, utilizing 3 different loudspeaker types to the same matched sound masking spectrum. With 70-volt sound masking systems, each loudspeaker type or change in architecture requires adjustment of both the sound level as well as tonal control in order to achieve consistency at the listener. As occupants move throughout a facility, there should be no discernible difference in the tonal characteristics of the sound heard. To achieve this, an adequate number of sound masking generators with independent equalization must be available to compensate for any variances. Let's take a moment to review Chapter 2, Dynasound Pro 70-volt sound masking systems. The 3 major parts of a constant voltage 70-volt sound masking system are loudspeakers, cabling, and head-end components. The head-end may consist of separate generators and amplifiers, or may be consolidated into a combined generator amp unit. Loudspeaker levels are individually controlled using the transformer tap, providing 3 dB steps of level adjustment. Initially, loudspeakers are typically set at 1 watt for most ceiling types and adjusted during tuning. Generator components include 1 or more channels of non-coherent noise generation. Each generator channel has a tonal adjustment to compensate for architecture, including ceiling attenuation class, mounting environment, and loudspeaker type. Dynasound Pro amplifiers provide power to a group of loudspeakers and vary in size from 25 to 100 watts. The size of the amplifier determines how many loudspeakers can be connected to a channel, with 85% of the rated available power being a good rule of thumb for most sound masking applications. Attenuator panels offer the ability to control a group of loudspeakers' overall volume level. Multiple attenuators may be connected to a single amplifier channel, given that adequate amplifier capacity exists. Connections from amplifiers and to loudspeakers alike utilize 2-conductor loudspeaker cabling. The effects of comb filtering can be minimized by providing 2 separate sound masking generator and amplifier channels within a single zone, by alternating the 2 generator channels on adjacent loudspeakers. When differing types of loudspeakers and/or differing architectural conditions exist, A separate sound masking generator and amplifier channel is necessary to adequately adjust the tonal characteristics of the sound masking spectrum as experienced by the listener. That concludes Chapter 2. In the next chapter, we will explore the Dynasound Pro network components and discuss the benefits of more precise sound masking system control.